looking at the NBA Eastern Conference standings.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, seeding still to be decided. Obviously, the play-in game home court thing.
I know. The play-in tournament's silly to begin with, but that's a conversation for another day.
So we got the 76ers versus the Raptors tonight. That is a potential first-round series.
Yeah, I see them sitting there right in the middle.
Boston at Milwaukee tonight. If Celtics go to third seed, they'd probably play the Bulls, who they crushed last night.
Oh, my God. It's like the Bulls this season, when they play a legit opponent, they just crumble. Like, they're pathetic. Remember at the start of the year how hot they were, sitting atop, like, the standings, and everyone's like, oh, my God, they've arrived, finally. No. They're a bunch of phonies. They're a bunch of frauds and cowards. But these two dudes are not. DK Nation's Chinmay Vaidya and RotoWire's Nick Whalen. Good to see you two. So this is NBA Shootaround. Let's get your best DFS and sportsbook plays on tonight's 7-game slate.
So, Nick, who are you going to pay up for in DFS?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting to that point in the season where, you guys just mentioned in the intro, how stacked up the standings are. Really in both conferences, where you kind of have to start looking and say, okay, is this team going to try? Is there a chance that this team, only plays Giannis, for example? Does he maybe only play a quarter tonight? Do the Bucks want to lose and kind of hang back in that 3 or 4 spot and maybe avoid the Nets in round 1? So it could get a little tricky. Obviously, you're going to want to check your lineups throughout the day. As always, I feel like we should mention Nikola Jokic sitting at the top of the board at 12,600. He's going up against Memphis. Denver still could catch Utah for the number 5 seed. Not a huge difference there, but maybe a slightly preferable matchup against likely Dallas instead of Golden State. So there is still something on the line for the Denver Nuggets if you want to go with Jokic. For me, if you're targeting Embiid or Giannis, it's a wait-and-see situation. I wouldn't be surprised if one or both of those guys are ruled out. Both of those teams still jockeying for position at the top of the East. One guy I do like, who I think is relatively safe, LaMelo Ball at 9,200 gets a really good matchup against Orlando. He's coming off of 2 really bad games. Charlotte's been blown out by almost 30 in each of their last 2, but that's not going to happen against this Orlando Magic team. And Charlotte could theoretically still catch Atlanta for the number 9 spot in the Eastern Conference, which doesn't seem like that big of a deal, 9 versus 10. But, in that first play-in game, that would mean you get that game at home. So very much a game that Charlotte wants to win tonight. I think for it, and I like LaMelo at 9,200.
All right, Chinmay, which guy are you paying up for in DFS?
There's plenty of great options tonight. You have Embiid, Harden, Giannis, and Jokic are all looking like really good plays if they do suit up. And I think that's a really good point that Nick made, that you got to make sure that these guys are actually playing at this time of the season when there could be some shenanigans when it comes to kind of fixing the playoff matchups and trying to get better seeding. I think we'll see that more on Sunday than we do today. But one guy that I really like is Karl-Anthony Towns, and he just had that 60-point game against the Spurs last month. The Timberwolves are still fighting for the chance to get the number 6 seed. And I believe Towns is still under 10K. And he's got a great matchup against a team that he just torched recently. So give me the Timberwolves center as the guy that I'm paying up for tonight.
All right, Chinmay, how about your favorite value play then?
I do feel kind of bad about this because the Trailblazers deserve some sympathy from all of us based on the way their season has gone. But you got to take some Pelicans bench guys. Jackson Hayes, Herb Jones are both in that 5K range. Pelicans are probably going to blow the Blazers out here. And Hayes has been starting recently. He has a double-double in his last 2 games. And Jones is a nice all-around player for New Orleans as that team gears up for its playing game. So give me both those Pelicans guys against the Blazers tonight.
All right, Nick, talk to me.
Yeah, I have Herb Jones on my list as well for the Pelicans. Someone that he could score 5 points, but he's probably going to get you 7 rebounds, a couple assists, might have 4 or 5 steals. I think he had 6 steals against the Lakers last week. And Portland certainly a team to target in that regard. A few other names I'll throw out there. Trey Jones, I think still a pretty good value. No DeJounte Murray again, as he's still dealing with that non-COVID illness. So we should see Trey Jones start and play a bunch of minutes. Chris Dunn has reemerged out of nowhere for the Portland Trailblazers on the other side of that matchup against New Orleans. He's at 5,100, played 30 minutes last game. Minutes have been ticking up the last few. He's been racking up a ton of assists in that span. So, again, I can't really believe that I'm recommending Chris Dunn, but the numbers have been there. And then Chuba Okeke, I always like because he has defensive potential. He's at 4,900, good matchup against Charlotte. And Zach Collins from the Spurs, 4,500. He's very quietly played 25, 31, and 25 minutes over the last 3 games, and still no Jock Landale for the Spurs. So maybe that leads to a little bit more of a role for Zach Collins off the bench.
All right, Nick, over on the Sportsbook, any game totals that you're looking at? That Spurs-Timberwolves game has the highest total on the slate, 241.5.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the one I feel obligated to ride, right? I mean, they were involved in a game against Washington earlier this week that had a similarly high total. That one went over. Minnesota's averaging by far the most points in the NBA since the break. They're responsible for something like 15% of games this season where a team has scored 135 points. They do it more routinely than anyone else. And obviously the Spurs team is you never really know what you're getting night to night without DeJounte Murray. It's a little bit of a different outfit, and they've been playing much faster this season than Spurs teams of old. So yeah, it's a high total, but it's worked out more often than not with this Wolves team.
All right, Chinmay, any game totals that you're looking at?
Yeah, a couple. I got one over, which is Bucks Celtics. It's sitting at about 227 right now. I think the Celtics, even though they did play yesterday, I think Tatum and Brown will suit up for this game. It's a game that's got a lot of playoff seeding implications. Giannis should also suit up for this one. The Bucks have gone over in 4 of their last 5 games. And even though the Celtics are coming off a back-to-back, I do think, or coming off a game last night, so second game of a back-to-back for Boston, I still think those guys will play in a game that has a lot of stakes. And then the late game, Warriors-Lakers, I like the under on that one. The Lakers are probably going to rest all 3 of their stars. And the Warriors have gone under in their last 4 games and 6 of their last 10 games. So I like the under in that late game and the over in the early headliner for the doubleheader tonight.
And Chinmay, that Lakers-Warriors game, by the way, 1 of 3 games on the slate with double-digit spreads. Who do you think covers tonight?
I tend to avoid double-digit spreads just because the way the NBA functions with blowouts, teams start resting guys, and then somebody gets hot late. You never know how it's quite going to play out with the double-digit spreads. But I do like the 76ers to go up to Toronto and take this game. I know there's some questions about Matisse Thybulle, and there's going to be some rumors swirling about his status going forward. But I do like the 76ers to put all that aside and go up to Toronto and take this game. And I also like the Grizzlies. For some reason, the Grizzlies, even though they're locked into the number 2 seed, they keep fighting and they keep battling with guys who are playing well despite Ja Morant being out. These supporting players are playing well and getting into their element. So I like the Grizzlies at plus 4.5 against the Nuggets. They might not win the game, but I think they'll keep that close.
Yeah, Nick, that's a big one there between the 76ers and the Raptors. Obviously 4 and 5, 1.5 point spread.
Yeah, I mean, that's one that Philly, you could kind of say, like, do they want to win this? Do they want to potentially move all the way up to 1 or 2? I think if you're looking at a situation where you might have to play this team in the playoffs without Matisse Thybulle, who very clearly is not vaccinated, I think we can say that. There's a reason they listed him as ineligible for this game. I think if you're Philly, you want to win this. You want to avoid this matchup, and even if that means potentially facing Brooklyn in round 1, so be it. I don't think you want to risk, going up to Toronto and playing without by far your best wing defender against a team that has really good wings in the playoffs. So I like that call by Chinmay. The Warriors, it is a big spread, 12.5 over the Lakers. We'll see if LeBron plays. He needs to play in 2 of the final 3 games to qualify for the scoring title, although Joel Embiid passed him up. So he also needs to score a lot of points while playing in 2 of those games in order to reclaim that. If he doesn't play, man, I'm happy to chase the Warriors 12.5 because this Lakers team, man, I mean, we've talked about it really since January, since they went on this skid where they haven't won back-to-back games in like 40 games. It's ugly. It's really bad. You take LeBron out of the equation, they're basically a G League team. I mean, they've been as bad, or close to as bad, I should say, as Portland, OKC, Indiana, teams that are openly trying to lose games since the All-Star break.